This is the Pennyworth podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We are back with Pennyworth Season 3, Episode 6, Hedgehunters.
You're quitting?
I will be with you today and for your meeting tonight, but starting tomorrow, I think you're better off with somebody else.
I don't want somebody else.
Look, I just don't think I'm the best man for the job.
Because we slept together?
Yes.
No other reason?
That's reason enough.
Then why do I feel like there's something you're not telling me?
Welcome back, fellow governors, to TV Podcast Industries and our chats all about Pennyworth Season 3, Episode 6, this time, Hedgehunters. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow governors. I am one of your other hosts, John. Welcome back.
Yes, this is the first time this season we're recording after the episode is aired. It's not that we didn't have the episode in advance. It's actually because this week is big birthday week for both myself and John. My birthday last week and John's birthday this week. So we decided to take a bit of time off and have some fun, some drinks, some parties, went out to a gig, had a really good time and missed our slot that we normally record the podcast in. So we're recording afterwards. But the good news is that means we got some feedback in on this episode as well as the past episodes, which is kind of cool.
Good stuff. Yes. Yeah. Keep the feedback coming in. You can send it to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com through email. We also have our spoiler-filled post over on facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries.
Yeah, absolutely. So big happy birthday, John, though.
Thank you very much, and happy birthday to you as well, Derek.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was good couple of days.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Another circuit around the sun.
Absolutely, and still Halloween to go. Boo. Yeah, so that's a very low boo there, John. But still Halloween to go. Still some fun parties to come.
Yes, I was a chillaxed ghost.
It was. You're obviously not going to scare anybody with that. But I wonder, did this episode scare anybody out of their wits watching it? Because quite a lot of big deaths in this episode.
Oh, yeah. Head count central going on here, which suggests to me either yes, there were a lot of deaths, or quite possibly none.
Yeah, there might be a few that aren't fully dead.
And I hope so.
But that does mean we're going to be entering our spoiler-filled discussion about the episode. So if you haven't seen it yet, head on over to HBO Max and watch it now and find out what deaths we're talking about.
Yeah. Derek, what are some of the episode details then?
Well, the episode was directed by Joe Robertson, who directed episode 5 as well. And this episode was written by John Stevens. John Stevens, an executive producer on this season of Pennyworth, has joined from the former executive producers on Gotham. He did 13 episodes of Gotham, producer on 80 of the episodes over there as well. And this is his second writing credit on Pennyworth. He wrote episode 2 of this season as well.
Yes, a Gotham alumni.
Yeah.
Which was quite interesting because there was some great Gotham establishing shots as well again.
We properly returned to Gotham this episode. Yeah.
Yes, it did make me get goosebumps. The hairs on my arms and the back of my neck stood up because, I don't know, there's just something about the establishing Gotham shots in Gotham which were really good, and it kind of kept that, really. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And you know, as some of our fellow governors or fellow Gothamites may know, we did cover every single episode of 5 seasons of Gotham, with lots of interviews with the cast as well. So it's a very special place in our heart as old Gotham. So nice to see Pennyworth return over there. And it's fun to have someone like John Stevens behind this episode, given how many things are going on here, because he's well known for his slightly outlandish episodes of Gotham, things where you don't exactly know what to expect next.
Yes, and it formed one of your birthday presents as well.
Yes, John gave me a photographic representation of our first ever podcast, which was in the run-up to Gotham. It was Gotham TV Podcast's first episode, and it looks cool as heck. I can't wait to put that on the wall in the podcast room.
Well, the second part of it is I need to get it framed.
Yes, absolutely. We will have it up and we will show it off on the Facebook group because it's very cool. It's very cool. Good stuff, but let's get into the detail of the episode. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for Pennyworth Season 3, Episode 6, Hedgehunters?
Sure. 10 years before being hired to protect Calper separatist leader Zara Kin, Alfie and Dave Boy kidnapped her father. Alfie is weighed down by his guilt, but after meeting and killing her untrustworthy contact and learning of Alfie's previous actions, Zara vows never to see him again. Alfie hopes to make amends by visiting the Hebrides in search of her father. Meanwhile, in northern England, Bet Sykes awakes to find John Salt waxing lyrical about his new plan. He wants to create an enhanced army to take the fight back to the English government and Captain Blighty. Bet escapes his clutches with Julie in tow, but is mortally wounded in the attempt, and sends her baby to live with her sister Peggy before bleeding out on a park bench. Meanwhile, Thomas Wayne pays a visit to his father and family manor back in Gotham. After discussing their strained relationship, Thomas tells his father love isn't enough, a sentiment he later seals with a bullet in an illegal lane of the city.
I wasn't sure how much access Pennyworth had to Crime Alley, and I'm not sure whether it was Crime Alley. I was searching the signage on the laneway where that bullet rang out to see if it was the same place where Thomas meets his untimely end in the future along with Martha. So I was wondering whether this scene took place, but a shocking moment at the end of the episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Back in Gotham. But let's get into our major moments from the episode, the big points that we have, our top three. We're going to start with Alfie confronting his past, as this is obviously Alfie Pennyworth's show. So let's talk about what happens with him and Miss Kin in this episode. I kind of like the opening scene where we have the full replay of what happened 10 years beforehand, where it's Alfie and Dave Boy going in to kidnap, effectively, this representative of Culper, who happens to be Miss Kin's father, kidnapping him on behalf of the British government. I like these opening scenes. I like those kind of flashbacks that we've had, some of them in the past, to Alfie's past with Dave Boy, but this is the first kind of Secret Service mission almost that we've seen for Alfie. Really like those kind of moments where we get to look back on this team together.
Yeah, it feels like really dark operations, doesn't it? I really enjoyed that flashback. I loved seeing them sort of in action.
Yeah.
And of course, just tying it to Miss Kin and just that uneasiness from Alfie. And it's portrayed really well because he knows he was responsible for it. Yeah. He hands Mr. Kin over to MI6. And the other side of this I really enjoyed was with Prime Minister Aziz as well, because Prime Minister Aziz was not giving an awful lot away here. And I like that they gave sort of a dubiousness to Aziz's intentions here, because he could just be, towing a governmental line, this notion that was done in the past, and it maintains so for the good of the Commonwealth. Yeah. Or it could be, given he asked Alfie to be her bodyguard, that there is some ulterior motive here of Prime Minister Aziz to maybe undo the harm that illegal dark operation did for the country, maybe. Possibly to return the country to democracy, maybe, possibly. I don't know, but I like the fact that they left that wide open. Yeah. And that Aziz was as cagey as he was during the episode, with Alfie.
It's always been really hard to know where Aziz sits, and I like that they keep stressing that throughout the seasons, that you don't really know where he sits, because his explanation makes a lot of sense. I love his line where he says, maybe I don't know every piece of skullduggery that went on in former governments 20 years before my placement here as Prime Minister, or 10 years before in this particular case. I do like that Aziz is kind of going, maybe it's because I trust you and I believe that you're going to get a good job done, maybe that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, it could be something else. Maybe he expected that the blame would shift to Alfie when Miss Kin found out about Alfie's involvement, and he was the one that was killed. And Aziz is then admonished completely, and the UK government is admonished completely of the incident, effectively. Maybe that was the whole play. But I like that that's always a grey area with Aziz.
Yeah, I mean, I like the notion that Aziz trusts Alfie's gut instinct.
Yeah.
In a sense, he's already done that by letting him off with the the whole escapade around the CIA and the breakout of Thomas from the Tower of London. You know, it feels as though, you know, at his core, Aziz is quite ethical, even though he does push those boundaries. And I'm not also saying that he's ethical or moral all of the time, but certainly there is some kind of compass to how he acts. And I quite like that. And part of that seems to be he can't do it officially, but he'll do it through Alfie.
Absolutely. Well, again, as Aziz explained about letting him away with the Tower of London incident, no particular proof to tie Alfie to it is what he's saying. He'll probably end off behind bars at some point in the future, but until then he has a use for him, and that's where Aziz sits. So I like that too. The only thing I wish about the flashback was that it maybe included Baza, who we saw in season 1 and season 2. There were real pains to say that these three characters were very connected all the way throughout their military career. I know Gully Troy is also involved, and he was the leader of their team to begin with. That's how they're all formed into their team, but you kind of expect it was going to be a flashback 10 years ago that Baza would at least have been in that crew. I'm not sure why he wasn't, or not sure if there's a reason, if this is just a time when Dave Boy and Alfie were off together. But given that they're still calling back to season 1 episodes, we hear Alfie telling the story of Esme from season 1 and how she died, and how that's had the repercussions on him and relationships from that point onwards. That continues to be a really important story. So I'm surprised there wasn't some kind of callback to, oh, remember that time, Dave Boy, when we were on that mission without Baza, or something. Even that might have been a little thing to explain. But just since they're calling back to the whole series, I was surprised either not to see him or not to hear a mention of Baza.
No, absolutely. That would have been a really nice touch to have had Baza in there. You know, such a staple of season 1 and season 2.
Yeah.
His tragic death. So I think it would have been a nice call to do that, but I'm guessing it's probably just production
maybe
aspects here. So yeah, but I agree. I think it would have been a nice touch.
Kind of cool. And then we have the big kind of showdown, effectively, where Alfie gives some guidance to Zara to arrange this meeting with the stranger, the person that we that she hasn't met before, who possibly has a lead on her father, to meet him at the Queen Anne's Revenge his pub. And then we have a big shootout, effectively. But I love the standoff moment. I love that this stranger turns out to be the guy that informed on Miss Kinn's father, the one that effectively Alfie knocked out when they were kidnapping her father. And he recognizes Alfie from his voice and from that particular action. He knows exactly who he is. So there's this real moment of, who is she going to choose? Is she going to take the gun out and try and shoot Alfie, or is she going to take out this stranger that she doesn't know because he's been the one that has been giving her all the information that she wants to know about her father, effectively?
Yeah, so, like he says that he's being held in the Hebrides. It's a prison for political prisoners, effectively, one where there is no court or jury. It's just life sentences up in the Hebrides. I love the fact as well with this that Alfie, in a sense, doesn't believe the informer because he knows he was the informer. He knows immediately who the person is there. And, you know, in a sense, saves himself from the wrath of Kinn when she pulls the gun on him after Alfie's secret is revealed to her, that he kidnapped her father. But again, it's the instinct of Alfie asking the question, you know, what brought you to London? Was it the big Commonwealth summit, or was it the promise of this contact to give you information about your father? Is that what lured you to England? You know, attempts have been made on her life. So I really liked that. And I liked how Alfie phrased it, you know, with the promise to get her father by betraying her people. Because in a sense, the deal here is that they can get her father, but she must turn over so the people that actually back her, that have put their trust in her, you know, post her father's kidnap.
And that would totally take out the entire movement, effectively. This movement that wants freedom for Kalpur in India. That's such an interesting idea, that she could have given all of that up to get her father back, effectively, even though he was the leader of that group beforehand. Or, as Alfie says, maybe he's not even alive. have no indication. This guy could be absolutely lying to her just to get that, to get her to give up the names. There's no, that it would all be going on trust, and he's an untrustworthy person since he's the one that turned in Kin in the first place. Yeah.
But I love that with the fallout of this, effectively, Kin gives Alfie a good slap around the old chops. Absolutely. Again, fabulous slapping in this show so far.
You, they have been learning from RuPaul's Drag Race, where RuPaul always gives the instruction on how to do the best slaps and reactions, because they've done a lot of great ones. We've got some great ones with Patrick Wayne earlier on in the season, but this one really stands out because I love how Alfie does it. It's kind of like, ooh, all right, I deserve that first slap. Gets slapped again and kind of, ooh, I deserve that, and then he reaches out and stops the third slap. Yeah. It's like, okay, you've made your point. It's done now. I thought it was really well filmed and really well done as a scene.
But, you know, she wants security. And again, Alfie's instinct here is he knows something is going on here with the informer. He's maybe less proud of his actions on the special operation. And so goes to Dave Boy to say that they're going off to the Hebrides. I love the fact that in that moment, though, Dave Boy is effectively only just coming off his massive trip event, which he thinks has just lasted a few hours, but has been 2 days.
Like, doesn't he literally describe
it?
Yeah, he literally describes the last thing he remembers was being at that art exhibition. Yeah. Like, it's literally, he doesn't have any memory since then. And unfortunately, we did have one moment with Sandra coming in, giving a really important letter to Dave Boy to give to Alfie. It's hilarious. I love the way that we see it through Dave Boy's eyes, like we did last week with Alfie and the Top and Tails and the Kaleidoscope. This week we see Sandra dressed up as some kind of fairy type creature.
Well, yeah. Dave Boy says, "You're a bit bright, aren't you?"
Exactly. And Sandra has no idea what's going on, but makes him promise to give this letter to Alfie, which he promptly eats. And then when Alfie goes to wake him up later on, he's in his pants. The entire office is turned completely upside down, and Dave Boy has absolutely no memory of it. Again, great comedy performance from Ryan Fletcher. Really,
definitely,
really good. Yeah. Love it. But they're off to the Hebrides. This is the final moment that potentially they're off to the Hebrides to try and find Miss Kin's dad.
So let's see.
It's always a really weird one, though, to remember that this is only showing on HBO Max in the US. It's not being shown in England. And a lot of the references that they've got in here go with no explanation. Like, if you were in America, do you really know that the Hebrides are... They're an island or an archipelago off the top of Scotland, aren't they?
Yeah, you've got the Hebrides and then Shetland, which is really far north, but it's off that chain of islands off the north coast of Scotland.
Yeah, it feels like, you know, you kind of, it's the equivalent of saying something like it's the Siberia of Scotland almost. It's what they should be saying in the show, is just in case for only American viewers, because you haven't been to the UK or you're watching this in the US and there's no UK audience for this yet. Maybe we need to explain those little moments and what this means to a person that lives in England, you know, but they don't even think about explaining that. They just say Hebrides, people will get it. It's an island prison, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they'll see it next week, I guess, if Alfie and Dave Boy are going off to the Hebrides. So maybe that's why they didn't explain it.
Maybe, yeah. I think it will be shown anyway.
It will. Those are our first 3 deaths in the episode: the 2 security guards and the informant. That's the first 3 deaths we have. We move on.
I think they're definitely dead.
I think they're definitely dead.
Definitely dead.
Yeah. We move on to our next major point and a next major death.
Yes, the murder of Patrick Wayne.
Yes, murdering Thomas.
Yeah, I must say, I thought this was all very reminiscent for me, with the establishing panning shots that we got twice here of just this Gotham TV show.
Sirens going off.
So I loved it. It really just threw me back to our early days of podcasting, seeing that. And it was really nice to see those panning shots of Gotham.
Absolutely.
And seeing Wayne Manor as well.
Yeah, and I will call out, those aren't the same shots. These are new shots, or they're definitely adjusted, because the old Gotham shots used to have things like the Joker symbol painted on a wall here or there, just to set you in that modern version of Gotham. So these may be the original plates that they shot, taken off, those kind of enhancements for the future of Gotham, but you could definitely feel it's the same type of city. So it was really cool to see that this is where Thomas is. And back in a pretty famous location, the library in Wayne Manor in Gotham. where we spent a lot of hours with older Alfred and young Bruce Wayne throughout the series. Now, of course, the show's been over in Gotham for 3 or 4 years. It's not the same set. It's a newly rebuilt set. It doesn't look exactly the same, of course.
I think it was on location.
In Gotham?
No,
wow.
in the UK somewhere.
yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
I don't think it was a set. I think it was on location. There's just something about it that you could tell.
Yeah, but it's a location that we've seen before, not the exact same location as
exactly.
the point, one that we spent a lot of time with in the shows.
But it was really good. I really enjoyed this sort of reunion of Patrick and Thomas. I mean, certainly given the fallout that happened in London in terms of his father, you know, in a sense using him to try and get his lullaby potion back. Also with the fallout of what happened between Thomas and Martha. So I really enjoyed this, you know, it was all quite, it felt distant, you know, why have you come here? And I just really liked how they reminisced, and it seemed like they were making up with a hug, you know, both of them were sorry. And then you get that line from Thomas Wayne, as we said in the synopsis, which is, you know, love just isn't enough. And I mean, I just thought that shot of them hugging, and with the mirror in the background, to seeing both sides of that hug from the one shot, I thought was really, really classy.
It was, yeah,
I loved it, and I thought it gave it great feel and great depth, and also interesting the line that Patrick says to Thomas, and maybe to the point of the shooting in the alleyway. He says, your anger has always been there, hidden. That almost his philanthropic nature, or, you know, for want of a better word, being a do-gooder, is almost like a front. There's a deep anger hidden within Thomas.
It's like it's covering up the darkness inside.
Yeah, and I thought that was really, really interesting, because I hope this show explores that. Yeah. For sure. And not just because, you know, the effects of the lullaby, but what did Patrick mean here? So I really, really enjoyed this scene.
Yeah, it was really interesting. It was lots of pointed dialogue, but and again, the drop of the line of love isn't enough. He's effectively had the conversation saying there was love between them. Patrick saying, I don't really know what changed. Everything changed. Nothing changed. You know, lots of back and forth, lots of kind of muddling of a conversation. It's not a straightforward conversation where Thomas runs out of the room and slams the door behind him, really angry at his father or anything like that. He said to him, I love you. Patrick has reiterated he loved him. There were many times they spent together, but things just separated and they seem to have come together and connected together. So the ending of the episode where Patrick walks out of the cocktail bar, walks down a dark alley in Gotham, which we know you should never do.
Absolutely, a big no. And you would think Thomas would have learned.
He should have. Well, I guess he's going to stand out to most people in the city now. But the shot rings out, and it's Thomas Wayne disguised as the Shadow. It's Thomas Wayne disguised as a shooter, effectively, very similar to as we mentioned earlier on, the scene where Thomas and Martha get shot in the alley in Gotham, kicking off Batman's career, effectively. But this time, the shooter is Thomas Wayne, who pauses and says, "Farewell, Father. Goodbye, Dad." Basically, to him. So, what's happened here? What's going on? Is it a plan between the two of them for Thomas to take over the reins of Wayne Enterprises, which would seem odd? Is this really Thomas Wayne? Is this an unknown twin brother? Crazier things have happened in Gotham.
Well, that's true.
So that would still explain why he said goodbye, Dad, to him. And this isn't Thomas Wayne. This is just an unknown brother. Or is Thomas still feeling the effects of the mind control that he had, and this was the next mission he had, was to kill his dad after killing his wife? He happened to hear Sandra on the radio in Gotham, and off he goes. Maybe that was it.
It's number 10 in Gotham, I guess.
maybe.
Yeah, it's
maybe that was the letter from Sandra, was to say, I'm about to go to Gotham to release my song over there in the US, and I'm going to take my tour over to Gotham. Maybe that was the letter that. No, because that would have been to Alfie, so it's not that letter. But maybe that was the letter to Alfie to say she was going to go to Gotham or something like that. I don't know.
For me, there was a slight, on the close-up of Patrick, you know, you have Thomas pull out the gun, and you see the two shots hit Patrick there in close-up, which I thought was really, really nicely done. But before the first shot rings out with that close-up, it is almost like Patrick gives some kind of acknowledgement that this is okay, son. You can do this. And I just wondered whether I was reading too much into the expression on Patrick Wayne's face, and maybe so. But I wonder, it's plausible. Patrick, when they first meet, he's drinking in his dressing gown. Yeah. His relationship with the CIA, obviously on the rocks, unlike his whiskey. Yeah. And so I just wonder whether it is a plan for him to effectively disappear. And that's why he's saying goodbye, Dad. Not so much because he's just killed him, but it's effectively Patrick has to go underground and go into hiding and forget that he was ever Patrick Wayne. Yeah. Take on a new identity.
Yeah. And it would explain how quickly Thomas ran out of London and went to the airport to go to Gotham. That's if this was the plan, if this was the way out for Patrick Wayne underneath the cot of the CIA, maybe. Yeah, that's a good shout. I also thought the look could be, oh well, I guess shoot me now. I shouldn't have walked down a dark alleyway in Gotham. Maybe that was it.
Could have been that as well.
But yes, a real surprise, a real shocker to have Thomas Wayne, the murderer, effectively, father of Bruce Wayne. But I do think, the echoing of that discussion about the darkness inside Thomas, given Bruce Wayne grows up to be Batman, there's also that nice relationship between father and son in there as well. Yeah. But Patrick did call out when Thomas came into the room. He did call out, I knew you'd be coming. It was no surprise to him that Thomas would be returning at some point, back to Gotham to see him. So, so I kind of like that as well. Those kind of mentions.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Again, isn't he dead? We'll see. But shall we move on to the sweeping vistas of Northern England?
Oh, yes.
The country within a country.
Yeah.
And it almost the death of Bet.
Yeah, it almost feels like that's what it should have said.
It did feel like that's how they set it up. Northern England is a big place.
Yeah.
And certainly is a country within a country.
But I'm wondering if that's what they should have been establishing in the show, really, is that now the English League who've taken over London, who are now the new government of England, that they don't control Northern England, and this is another country that Bet is in, because the way it looks, given how big Northern England is, and John is from Northern England to make that point, but given how big it is, it feels like they've just kind of gone somewhere random in Northern England because it doesn't matter. Everything else in England is London, which is a very Londoner perspective, isn't it? Yeah. So it felt like a weird one, but yes, it is a major point, a major moment, the death of Bet Sykes. So last episode we saw Bet being captured by new Swiss Army John.
Yes, that's it. It's not just the death of Bet Sykes. It is the trail of breadcrumbs has led to John Salt, and it's the death of John Salt, potentially. But I absolutely loved, you've turned yourself into a Swiss Army knife from Bet with his new kind of Assassin's Creed, retractable dagger from his forearm, which I thought, to be honest, was used spectacularly well by Bet Sykes after John Salt has really ambushed her in this huge nursery of babies where Bet is trying to sort of reconnect and get back Julie. She is ambushed from behind with the dagger through her, which is her mortal wound, if we are to believe that she is dead.
Yes.
But I love in the fight, firstly, the use of the gun to the head. I thought that had taken him out, but he was still alive, so it must have just been to the neck. But as he's strangling her, that she uses the dagger to effectively stab him and take him out, I thought was great. So it was really just how they choreographed that, I thought was just really nicely done, using John Salt's latest new sort of surprise weapon against him.
Absolutely. Yeah, really, really good. Like there's so many good things going on in these scenes. You know, we have Beth being sent off for execution. I love, because it's Beth Sykes, you know she's going to get out of this, but I love that Beth's almost interrogating her executioners to find out what her next steps should be when she kills them. She's going, so where's this nursery that John Salt was talking about where you put Julie? Just tell me. Oh, it's round the back. All right, grand. Do you want a blindfold? No. Why? Well, because it would make this more difficult. And what's more difficult than shooting blindfolded if you're using a teddy gun? Fantastic moment as she uses the teddy bear that has the gun placed inside it to kill.
Well, instead of a Tommy gun, of
exactly,
course.
The teddy gun.
Yes, the teddy gun.
Absolutely.
Really like that.
Yeah.
I also like Bet's final words to John Salt as well. I finally shut you up, which was a simple and to the point.
Yes.
But again, the question raised here, given John Salt was more machine and teeth than he was man, is he savable by, the doctors of this outpost, this hidden outpost of the Raven Union?
Yes.
And similarly...
Do they just turn him off and on again?
Yeah.
Basically, the point. Yeah.
Well,
I think there's one indication that John Salt is not dead.
Yes.
Which I think is because in that moment where he threatens to blow up the carriage that supposedly has Julie inside, he gets the information out of Beth that Francis Gaunt is the one that turned him in. And I think you don't drop that line in the episode and have John Salt learn that it's Francis Gaunt that turned on him.
Yeah.
Unless you follow it up with John Salt coming back and going after Francis Gaunt. I think that's kind of what you have to do with that scene. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense to go that far with the scene.
Absolutely. And also the fact that he has introduced, his new line of soldiers based on Captain Blighty.
Yeah.
To his rationale, the reason why the Raven Union lost was because we were out-evolved by Gulliver Troy, Captain Blighty, when he took in Project Stormcloud's the chemical.
Yeah.
And turned into the effective fighting machine that was used against the Raven Union. And
that
so he has and won the war. So he's
Mm-hmm.
created his own Gulliver Troy here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, showing all of that, otherwise it's a massive set and a massive piece of production to end the Raven Union.
Yeah. But what a way for John Salt to go out. Stabbed through with his own blade. But let's talk quickly about the death of Beth then. It's a real surprise. She's gotten out of tough scrapes in the past. I kind of like the idea of her going to the bus and leaving a message to send the baby off to Peggy, her sister, also in Northern England. But Beth didn't even sign it. So effectively, Peg will now get a baby on her doorstep with just the address, right? She won't get any information about who this baby is.
Unless she recognises the handwriting, of course.
Well, that's true, but it's just her address written on it. So yes, she might recognise the handwriting.
I thought the address wasn't enough for the bus driver to be able to get Julie to Peggy.
Yeah. No postcode.
No postcode, but no, I didn't. I just thought it was a street name. So I guess it's a different time.
Was she quite close?
Yeah.
She's quite close maybe to Beth.
I guess so. But coming back to Beth, I'm really hoping she's not dead, to be honest. I mean, she is fantastic in this show. I think one of the best parts of it. Maybe it's time, absolutely, but I really hope that Beth is alive still. And if not, then I really hope that Peggy comes back, because I thought the two of them were phenomenally good together.
Two of them are great, but what a standout of the series Paloma Faith has been.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just her delivery of lines, her comedy throughout the series has been so good, and it's always been interesting because Paloma Faith has got a music career, and a very successful music career at that. It's not just that she sang a few songs and did a bit of acting. She had a very successful music career that she's put on hold to do Pennyworth for the last few years. So she has got the other career to go to. So I always wondered whether she was too big for this show or whether she was going to move on at some point in the future. So I'm not sure whether we're going to be able to get back in the show.
Yeah.
But she has been such a central part of the show that it's a real shame to lose her if that's the reason she's moving on. I know Paloma Faith's also had a child for the first time, and she does want to spend a lot more time with the child, and that will be another reason why she may not be able to balance 3 careers, you know, a mother and on tour with concerts and also acting. That's a lot of things to take on. So I wonder if that's the reason that we may have lost Bet here. But a great send off to her. She got to take out the former head of the Ravens League in a really dramatic, awesome fight, and had to have a great moment with Julie where she's telling her, you know, you were loved. Always remember you were loved throughout your life. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be there to tell you that, but I really, really did like that moment. I thought that was really good.
No, absolutely.
Farewell to at least 3 people in the episode who we know are definitely dead, and maybe we'll see at least 1 or 2 of the other 3 back at a later episode.
Or they could all be dead as well.
Exactly. Anything else about the episode we need to talk about, John?
The only note I have is Alfie interrupting Mary and Roger reconnecting as he goes to get his gun. And then also the absolute great line from Alfie to Zara Kin where he says, "My mum had it up the chimney." And Zara says, "Is that a thing in England?" So I think there was a bit of double meaning going on in that exchange.
Alfie, of course, talked about the gun that his mother put up the chimney, but a very kind of Benny Hill, a very British stereotypical type of double entendre there.
Certainly, yes, a double meaning.
Very good. That was in my explanations for the episode. That was in my my bucket of things that we needed to explain in the episode. So having it up the chimney means putting your gun up the chimney. That's occasionally something that people who have guns in England might do. That was the only explanation I have for it. No other explanation at all. Double entendre.
Well, we are a PG podcast.
We certainly are.
Whether we can actually maybe go into that kind of slang, I don't know.
No, we can't. No. We've gone as far as we can go, John. We'll have to move on to our next piece of slang to explain. Only other one I have really is Alfie just saying I could name myself the King of Bethnal Green. Which is an area in London.
Yes.
No really need to explain that one. I have my first American one for this episode.
Oh, very good. Go on.
Doesn't help our viewers and the viewers on HBO Max because they probably know it. But what I was intrigued by was just the turn of phrase from Patrick, where Thomas Wayne arrives and Patrick's drinking, as you said, and he goes, "What do you expect me to do? Tear my shirt?"
Yeah.
And I was going, that's a weird phrase. What does that mean? And tear my shirt is actually slang for crying. So did you expect me to be sitting here crying when you arrived? So our first American slang on the show.
Excellent stuff.
That I didn't understand and I had to look up. And of course, when I read it everywhere, the explanation for tear my shirt was rip my shirt open. But I did find an explanation that means crying. So I presume that's what they're meant.
Yes.
In that scene. That makes much more sense in context.
Definitely.
Did you pick up any this episode, John, at all?
No, none from me.
No other ones. I think we're getting better. I think we're getting closer to understanding every word that's being said on screen now.
I think so.
Yeah, but again, fellow governors, fellow listeners, if you've heard any that we didn't pick out, please email into us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. John, overall, what did you think of the episode? How would you rate it?
I really enjoyed this episode. It had a lot going on in it, and I would give this 4 hedge clippers out of 5.
Okay.
You know, again, are they dead? Aren't they? Just because we've got that so many times in Gotham, and I feel some going a bit too soon, like Bet Sykes, but for other reasons, she may actually be dead.
Yeah.
Something about the murder of Patrick Wayne and just his knowing look before the first shot, it almost felt like a permission to do this.
And so also painting Thomas as a murderer in the show is quite a big thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think there's a few of these aren't necessarily what they appear to be. Certainly the most obvious would be John Salt being able to be sort of welded back together as a result of the wounds. And so That was really good. I thought Alfie and Azara Kin here were really good with Alfie's kind of just unease at knowing what he had done, and that kind of split. And I think with Patrick and Thomas at Wayne Manor, I just thought that was a really great exchange, like with Bet and Julie on the bench before she hands the bus driver Julie to send off to her sister Peggy. So for me, this is 4 hedge clippers out of 5.
Excellent. I'd be with you on that. I think it's a really high episode for me this season because so much happened outside of just the Alfie storyline, with him reflecting on his past and this aim for the future. His new job now is going to try and get Miss Kin's dad back. You know, that's a big mission for the end of the season potentially, or just for next episode. You never know with Pennyworth. Sometimes something that seems like a big moment can be really small. But the deaths in this episode, these big twists of people that you didn't expect to die so soon. We only saw John Salt for the first time last episode, and he's been mentioned the entire season so far, and now potentially dead. Beth Sykes being such a big character in the show, and now potentially gone. And we only were introduced to Thomas's father, Patrick Wayne, this season, and now potentially dead at the hands of Thomas Wayne. These are all big, shocking moments in this episode. So a really good, just over halfway point in the season with 4 more episodes left. So I really enjoyed it. Good stuff. Let's head on to our Royal Mail feedback section and get your thoughts on last week's episode. And as I mentioned, we have a few pieces of feedback on this episode as well. John, do you want to kick us off with our first piece of feedback?
Yes, we got an email from Coffee and Vodka on both episodes 4 and 5, who says, "Greetings, fellow diplomatic defenders. In a feast or famine programming schedule, if you find yourself closer to the latter, it's nice to have a show as meaty as Pennyworth as one of your last couple of meals. While humorous, the show has a gravitas that I can't quite explain. Maybe it's the grounded solidity of the plots, or the well-defined characters. But whatever it is, it works well. The exchanges between Thomas and Alfie concerning what's right versus a hefty payday, with the right coming out on top, provide the continuation of a mental segue from profit-driven investigator to justice-supporting butler. Of course, the mind control plot couldn't wrap up early, all tied up in a pretty little CIA bow. Instead, it continues to be the gift that keeps on giving, as Francis Fuchs with Dave Boy's noggin figured it to be him behind the mask. It was nice to finally be right about something. Do you think we're looking at a proto-scarecrow here? Could be, indeed. Mind-controlling drugs. Yes. Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Coffee and Vodka continues, She-Hulk did for men on dates what Stephen King's It did for clowns. I don't know what Mary's Gentleman is about, but crumpets to crumbs, you can bet it's no good. I was only kidding about Bet confronting Salt, pram in tow. I thought for sure she would have left her with a good doctor, as a take care of this baby or die deal, but it was just another Sykes out. Not really liking the direct connection of Alfie being the abductor of Zara Kin's father. Lazy writing to generate instant drama, somewhat cracking the aforementioned grounded solidity. Other than that, I liked every minute of these episodes. 4 pram holsters, missed millions, and altered salts out of 5. Peace and take care, Coffee and Vodka.
Excellent stuff. Thanks very much for your thoughts, Coffee and Vodka. I really love the idea of a proto-scarecrow here, someone that's possibly using the fear toxin started back here in tablet form for Francis Fuchs to share around to get the upper echelon of society, all the arty crew, all addicted to them, get those hallucinogens, like that. Good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do know what you mean about Roger. I think there's something, maybe he is just the anxious, nervous kind of gentleman, but you just don't know that it could always be something more sinister underneath.
It really could. It really could. I like to think it is just how nervous you would be after being married to a woman for so many years, and she went and ran away publicly with a very well-known figure. I think that idea of him getting into any relationship at all is difficult. and the amount of guns that are waving around when you're in a relationship with Mrs. P, and Alfie's running in and out of the house carrying weapons in England. Again, I know they've just gone through a civil war in this version of England, but still, people waving guns around all the time would make me a little bit more nervous. Certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff, Coffee and Vodka. Thanks so much for the thoughts on episode 4 and 5.
Mm-hmm. Also, Victor Von Doom says, greetings, Batverse. Nice fake out on the Guy Fawkes mask. What is Fuchs up to? I never suspected he would be involved. I was wondering if Trish would reappear. Nice to have another wild card in the plot. Alfie is quite the player. Any woman that crosses his path and he has to have her. Alfie's exploits could have been a template for Ian Fleming, or perhaps the other way round. I have high hopes for Mrs. P and Roger, though. Welcome back, Bet. I was really surprised at the appearance of Francis Gaunt after last season. Bet should have expected something different from that fiend Jean Salt, though. Will Peg come to save her? Again? What of the baby? What the F is Thomas Wayne up to, going to Gotham to confront his dad, maybe? My favourite quips from this episode, Aziz, no doubt you'll be back behind bars at some point, but until then, your services could be useful. I did pick out the quote from Dave Boy as well. I have a keen to chin that man for what he did to me jacket. Cheerio, Batverse, Victor Von Doom. Good stuff. A lot of answers to Victor's questions in this episode.
Yeah, well, exactly. Definitely.
Yeah.
Sadly, no Peggy just yet.
Yeah.
And
not coming to save Bet, but potentially saving Julie, though.
Yes,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
And I was surprised with Francis Gaunt reappearing in episode 5,
mm-hmm.
and it was a good
it's a good scene.
Good scene,
yeah.
And I'm glad she was back in it for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks so much, Victor.
Yeah, thanks, Victor.
Yeah, over on Facebook, Jamie Lawton says, didn't see that the man behind the mask was the artist Francis Fuchs, but there again, they were pronouncing his name a bit odd. And when the reveal came, it was of course Fawkes, as in 5th of November.
Yes, that was fantastic, Jamie. I never would have picked that out. We've mentioned before, we don't always get to see the credits at the end of the episode or subtitles for the episode, so we were taking it on merit as how people were pronouncing his name. They were just trying to avoid saying the other word, calling him Francis Fuchs, but Francis Fawkes, as in Guy Fawkes, as in 5th of November, connected to V for Vendetta. That is a fantastic catch there, Jamie. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and Toffee Apples. Yeah, really good catch there, Jamie.
Makes total sense now.
Definitely. Yeah, thanks so much for that insight. Really good. Parthenia Locklear says, I've been wary of Dave Boy's girlfriend since the beginning. Now she's got him into this mess. Happy for Mrs. P. I bet once again in a mess. I wonder, will all of these stories come together or cross at some point? Or are these just very different threads? I know what you mean. Gotham, whilst it had overarching storylines and that, it was also, a lot of separate different threads and quite independent episodes in some cases. Certainly in the first season. And it's interesting to see how at this moment the story of Miss Kin is going to connect with potentially the rise of the Raven Union or their continued existence.
How it could, yeah.
It's difficult, but it might just be around more how they impact Alfred.
Yeah.
To form, I think as Coffee and Vodka said, to go from profit driven to being, conscious of the justice involved.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It is something that we'd spoken about at the start of the season, the way some of the amount of storylines down to characters are pushed into an episode. Sometimes it feels like nothing's connected, and we still have there's stories going on that aren't connecting with anything at all other than what happened last season and the repercussions of that. But I do wonder if we're going to get more things crossing over as the season goes on. Good stuff. Thanks, Bithynia.
Yeah, thanks, Bithynia.
And well done for catching up. I think Bithynia was just starting season 1 about 3 or 4 weeks ago, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well done. Some more thoughts on episode 6. First up, Jamie Lawson says, what a great episode. Bet has some great one-liners. I can't believe that is the last we see of her. Pretty sure she'll be back.
Similar to us, Jamie, and those thoughts.
Yeah, definitely.
We also had an email in from Coffee and Vodka on this episode. He says, greetings, fellow daddy death dealing defenders. Finally, a show all about the hazards of parenting. There's Papa Patrick perforated in an alley by son Thomas, which I'm sure Karma will have no role in the future of. New mother Beth bleeding out after a difficult adoption. Bit of assault in that wound. Mary confusing her poor son Alfie by revealing herself to be a woman, a person, as well as a mother. Surprisingly, without involving yet another fatality. 1 out of 3 is not bad. They managed more or less to make a bit of lemonade out of the Alfie as abductor of Zara's father contrivance. There's that parent thing again, spinning it into a story of atonement. Even foreshadowing it with the jailbreak of Thomas a couple of episodes ago. It's a safe bet Sykes isn't dead, considering her major role in the series. At least I hope it is. The same probably holds true for multiple Daddy John, just taking him out of the game for a while, but only time and another season may tell. Still, the highlight of the show was Dave Boy's continued hallucinations. I'll have what he's having, please. 4 twitchy trigger fingers, edible Dear Johns, and nightmarish nurseries out of 5. Peace and take care, Coffee and Vodka.
Thanks so much, Coffee and Vodka. Yeah, totally with you, and I think with a lot of other people, and with a lot of the other fellow governors, that Bet Sykes hopefully isn't dead. We'll all keep that hope alive. And loving your multiple Daddy Johns comment, as well as it's a safe bet, Sykes. Very nice. That's very good.
Pretty good. That's pretty good. Very good. But I do wonder on that moment where we were presented with John Salt's babies, effectively all the babies that were in the nursery, where did he get all of them from? Is he kidnapping babies all across the country, or do they just all happen to walk in and he takes them?
Well, I'm guessing that Julie was ultimately destined to go there, that the couple that Bet Sykes killed, it wasn't actually theirs, or if it was, because they're still committed ravens, that they were effectively giving it over to John Salt.
Babies in exile.
Yeah, whatever's going on there. And I'm guessing it's for the new army.
Yeah. I wonder if he's aging up the babies so that they can become members of the army. Is that one of the things? We'll see as the episodes go on, I guess. I can't guess where it's going to go for this season at all.
No, not at all.
Well, thanks so much, Coffee and Vodka.
Yeah, thanks, Coffee and Vodka. And finally, Victor Von Doom for episode 6 says, greetings, Batverse. This episode was a real downer until Alfie walked in on Mary and Roger getting their groove on. I have never laughed so hard. The look on Alfie's face was priceless. I am so happy for Mary and Roger. I'm not surprised, though, that Zara knows her way around firearms. How long will it take Dave Boy to come down off his trip? That must have been some high-end stuff Sally gave him. Only Bet would keep a pistol in a teddy bear. It's a teddy gun, Victor. I love that girl. We cannot lose her. I was happy to see Salt go down, or will his mechanics save him? I was both entertained and confused with the episode. Cheerio, Batverse, Victor Von Doom. Great stuff, Victor. Again, can't echo the sentiments enough. We cannot lose Bet Sykes. I also think we definitely need Salt to, as you say, rise up from the mechanics yard as well, for sure. And
it's just because there's so much story left to tell, and there's nobody else. He hasn't handed off to his second in command who's going to explain the plan next week. But I love your description of the episode, that's both entertained and confused with this episode, as you can often feel when episodes are coming out weekly, especially when they give you 3 major deaths or 6 big deaths in one episode like this. So I get that. Yeah, no, I can absolutely get where you're coming from on that, Victor. And it's certainly sometimes, I think, happened in Gotham as well. Yeah, absolutely. But at least we're entertained, as I said.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Thanks so much for all your thoughts on the episodes. If you want to email us, you can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, or pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. We have a spoiler post up every week for each of the episodes of Pennyworth. We will be back next week with our chat about Pennyworth Season 3, Episode 7, Don't Push It, on HBO Max. Do you know what I'd like to know, John, though?
Go on.
because we're getting the episodes in advance and don't have access to HBO Max, I have no idea what time these episodes come out. So each week I'm wondering when to release the podcast. Sometimes it's like, I get the tweet that comes out at about 5 p.m. our time in the UK and Ireland, saying it's now available. But I still don't know what time it comes out at. I've seen people watching it earlier on in the day, and I've seen people watching it later, obviously, when the world wakes up outside of Ireland and the UK, but I don't know what time it comes out at.
I know.
So if any of our wonderful fellow governors could tell me what time episodes come out on HBO Max, I'd love to know.
Yeah, it would be good to know.
That'd be cool. Thanks so much for joining us. Talk to you again next time.
Yeah, thank you so much, fellow governors, for joining us. It is a pleasure talking all things Pennyworth, as always.
Yeah.
But remember, in the meantime, keep watching, keep listening, and be wary of dark alleys.
Mm-hmm. And happy birthday, John, again.
Thank you. And happy birthday to you as well, Derek.
And happy birthday to everybody out there that has a birthday right now.
And whilst I'm on the podcast here, thank you to all the fellow defenders and listeners who wish me a happy birthday as well on our feed. It was very, very nice and very, very appreciated.
Absolutely. Thanks once again. Talk to you again next time. Bye.
Bye.